So today I'm making some apple pie filling. This filling is going to be used in campfire pies. So I'm going to cut them up really thin. The first thing I'm going to start with is 3 pounds of Fuji apples, 3 pounds of Granny Smith apples for a total of 6 pounds of apples. I'm going to rinse them off really good in a vinegar rinse to make sure there's no yucky stuff on the skins. And then I'm going to let them dry for a few minutes while I get my canner ready. So just something to remember, if you're going to can hot stuff, the jars need to be hot, the water in the pan needs to be hot, and your filling needs to be hot. If you're doing cold stuff, then your jars and your water and your filling all needs to be cold. So I'm just going to rinse these jars really quick in some vinegar water. I've already washed them out with some dish soap. The vinegar water just kind of gives it that extra little bit of sterilization, as well as make sure there's no soap residue left on them. And then it also keeps the jars from clouding up after they've sat for a while. I don't expect this filling to be sitting for any large amount of time. But. So I have a large pan of water that's going to hold my apples while I'm cutting them up. And I added some lemon juice just to make sure that my apples don't turn brown. Now, this would be a really good time for me to use an apple peeler, but I don't have one, so I'm going to do it all by hand. 6 pounds of apples. So you want between 6 and 7 pounds of apples. You want your slices to end up being like 12 cups of apples. You can slice them long ways. I'm cutting them more thinner, almost dicing them because of what we're making. Again, these are going to be used in campfire pies, which is, you just take a piece of bread and you put some butter on it and you get the little cast iron thingies and you just cook it over a campfire. So I'm going to make them kind of thin, so that way it tastes good in the bread. As I dice them up, I throw them into that pot with the water and the lemon juice, and it won't make them mushy or anything. It just help them keep from turning brown. And once I get them all diced up and put in the pot, I'm going to give it a little mix just to make sure there's lemon water all over all of the apple pieces and they stay looking beautiful. And of course, I'm going to save my apple scraps and put them in a baggie and stick them in the freezer for apple scrap jelly. If you never tried that, that is delicious. Then you want to get a heavy bottomed pot and add 2¼ cup dark brown sugar, 1 cup of white sugar, half a teaspoon of nutmeg, 1 tablespoon of cinnamon, and a half a teaspoon of salt. I use sea salt. You can use regular salt, and 5 cups of just regular tap water is what I use. Well, mine's well water, but so we're going to bring this to a simmer. This is going to be our syrup that the apples are going to go into. And once you get it up to a simmer, you're going to want to add your apples, see how nice and bright they still are. And you're going to see this water, it's actually kind of brown. uh, and it's a lot of apples to add in there. So what I like to do is just add some and then kind of mix it around and then add some more just to make sure everything gets coated really well with the syrup. See how brown the water turned? So then what we're going to do is we're going to let this all come all the way up to a bubble. um or I'm sorry, we're going to let this simmer and come up to a simmer again, and we'll let it simmer until these apples are tender. You don't want them mushy, you just want them a little tender, and it takes a little while, about 12 minutes or so, depending on the thickness of your apples. And once you have it as tender as you want, you're going to make a cornstarch slurry with 3/4 cup cornstarch and a half a cup of just regular water, and then you're going to add it in. And I like to give it a good mix right now and make sure the cornstarch gets incorporated in the syrup really well. And then we're going to add a 1/4 cup of lemon juice and then 2 teaspoons of vanilla as well. And the lemon juice is kind of just for the canning and also for flavor, but it makes it, a little acidic. And I would suggest using bottled lemon juice if you're going to can it. Just, just on to err on the side of safety. And then you're going to want to bring it up to a bubble, kind of like gravy. You're going to want it to bubble. And the thicker you want it, the longer you let it bubble, the thinner you want it. Don't let it bubble so long. About 5 to 7 minutes or so. I'm gonna get my hot jars and then I'm gonna jar this stuff up. And I got a couple of different sizes of jars. And then I'm gonna have some actually left over. And we ended up eating it with some pancakes. It was really good. And so right now it looks like it's a little bit thin because I wanted mine just a little thinner. Just to again, go with the campfire pies. And I am going to leave about an inch of headspace. Now I forgot to run a stick through here to debubble everything. So don't forget to do that if you're going to can them. You don't have to can it. You can just go ahead and make a pie or whatever if you want. It'll probably make a couple of pies. But I wanted this is Monday, and I wanted them to last until Saturday on the 4th. So we're hosting our family cookout this year, and I am going with, all American theme. So what's more American than apple pie and hot dogs? And that's what we're doing. Apple pie campfire pies and hot dogs. Now, if yours turns out a little bit thinner than what you'd like, you can always just throw it back on the stove and cook it up a little bit more. But if you've already canned it, you can't recan it. You would have to start all over again. Make sure you always clean your rims with a little bit of vinegar or warm water, whichever. I choose to do vinegar. It just makes me feel like it's a little more sterilized. But you do it the way you want. Your kitchen is your kitchen. And then we're going to put the lids and the rings on. And just put the rings on. They call it finger tight. You just don't want to crank them down. You want it to, all the rings do is just hold the lid on while it's water bathing. That's it. That's the only thing the rings do. So they don't have to be really tight. This one wouldn't go on right. I had to readjust everything. Now I'll leave the full description, or I'm sorry, the full recipe in the description below. Um, and if you do try it, let me know. So we're going to process these for about 20-25 minutes. I processed mine for 20 minutes. My water is nice and hot. It's not boiling though. It's just hot. And we're going to bring it up to a rolling boil before we start the time. And I'm going to throw a little vinegar in. And this again will help keep the jars from turning cloudy. So now that we're at a full rolling boil, I'm going to put on the lid and set my timer for 20 minutes. And once it's done with that, I will take the lid off and let it sit about 15 minutes or so. And then I'm going to transfer them to my countertop where I have a towel. And I'm going to let them set for at least 24 hours before I even touch them. As long as all of your lids do the little pop sound, you should be good. If not, well, then put them in the fridge. There you go. If you give it a try, let me know. Thanks for watching. Bye.